Welcome, Swagatam, Namaste. I'm very delighted to be able to host this gathering tonight. My name is Francis Xavier Clooney. I'm a member of the faculty here at Harvard and very much supportive of this wonderful program and our wonderful visitors this year. And I'm very grateful for everyone accommodating the unusual, unprecedented situation in which we find ourselves tonight with a very small and very select audience in the room. Very grateful to those who are able to be here in the room, and for our much larger audience watching live online. In some ways, it's perhaps symptomatic of the very challenge of our topic tonight, that we talk about Vedanta in the 21st century, not Vedanta in the 1st century, the 10th century, the 19th century, but the 21st century not as we wish it would be, but as it is. A world in which there are many dangers, many confusions, people moving around, violence, ecological degradation, all kinds of problems around us. And this coronavirus perhaps is a symptom, a symbol for us of how frail and fragile our life is. And I think to be able to say, given the problems of our generation and the world in which we live, how important it is to be able to go back and to learn from the great traditions to which we belong. And how appropriate it is now to be able to say Vedanta, such an ancient tradition, such a beautiful tradition, rooted in the Upanishads, rooted in the Veda, rooted in texts like the Bhagavad Gita, and thousands of years of lineages of teachers teaching us how to put our life in balance, how to seek the path, how to travel the path of learning and of education, how to teach and to be students of generations to come, passing on the wisdom, and how to envision societies that have the wonderful mix of detachment and engagement in the world. And I think it's wonderful tonight that we can, long distance, some in the room and many online, take up and begin to explore this together. I told my class the other day I'm teaching a course on the Bhagavad Gita, a wonderful course that some people in this room are in, and that we should be a little bit heartened by the Gita. After all, it was Sanjaya in the Gita with the king Dhritarashtra, who from a distance, seeing with his television, is able to report everything that takes place. We're very grateful to Bob DeVoe and our technical people for being able to make us see things even at a distance in our time and place.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Friends, I read somewhere that the famous physicist Niels Bohr, he said that if you are not shocked by quantum mechanics, you have not understood quantum mechanics. An acquaintance and friend of mine, Ankur Barua, who teaches Indian philosophy at Cambridge University, the other Cambridge, across the pond. So he begins his Advaita Vedanta class. His handout begins with, if you are not shocked by Advaita Vedanta, you have not understood it. I'm going to speak about a school of Vedanta. Akshar spoke about one school. I'm going to speak about another school, Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual Vedanta. Now, what is it that's so unique and strange and remarkable and even shocking about Advaita Vedanta? It's helpful to see what Advaita Vedanta is not. That gives us a good sense of what it is. Religion, the kind of religion we are most familiar with, and most of us study here at the Divinity School, is faith-based. So you are told by your tradition, by your books, by your teachers, that God exists, and you have to believe in God and surrender to God, and there are devotional practices. But notice, all of that is based on faith. It starts with belief, and it's belief which sustains you for a long time. And the problem with this approach is a very beautiful approach, and it's the most common approach. You find it across the religions of the world. The only problem with this approach is it's vulnerable to skepticism. It always has been, and especially in today's age. You just have to listen to a few minutes of Christopher Hitchens, bless his heart, and Richard Dawkins, and Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, to know what I'm talking about. To those who are much too emotionally involved, even to the point of fanaticism, I prescribe a course of Dawkins and Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens. As against this, there is another kind of religion, an experience-based religion. So it's not that you have to believe in something, but that these things, God and an immortal soul, and they can be experienced. This experience-based approach, I think this is what made Swami Vivekananda so popular when he came to this country in the late 19th century, to a land which thought of religion as faith. In fact, the most common word for religion even today is faith. He said that religion does not consist in believing doctrines, it consists in actually realizing the truths of religion. If God exists, I must be able to see God. If I have an immortal soul, I must feel it. The basic idea is that there are extraordinary experiences which are called mystic experiences, which, if you have them, they reveal to you the truths of religion. The claims of religion are validated by mystical experience. A classic text in the Indian tradition of this type would be the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It was no accident that Swami Vivekananda chose that as the first book to translate and publish from the Vedanta Society of New York, his famous Raja Yoga. It's based on the Yoga Sutras. But even here, that's not Vedanta either. That's not Advaita either, the path of mystical experience. Even the path of mystical experience, it can be critiqued. Suppose you have wonderful experiences, very spiritual experiences. A neuroscientist and a doctor can come and tell you that there's no doubt that you felt these things. We are not denying that. But it's just this little problem. You have a little tumor in your brain which is pressing against such and such nerve, and that's what's giving you these experiences. It does not really tell you that there is a God or an immortal soul or that we are all one. In fact, recently there was a very popular YouTube video about a neuroscientist. She got a stroke. And for some time, because of that hemorrhage in her brain, the experience was of a feeling of oneness, universal oneness. And she talks about it, and that talk became very popular. Many people have seen it. So that could be a critique, that no, mystical experience, we are not denying that you experience these things, but we can say that they don't really prove anything special to you. It just could be something neurological. So that's the way of mystical experience. Advaita Vedanta often is confused with this, but it is not a path of mystical experience. Now, let me be clear. I'm being too strict here. There is the room for faith in Advaita Vedanta. There is a room for mystical experience in Advaita Vedanta. But I want to get to the heart of Advaita Vedanta. And I think such exercises in drilling down are helpful to get at the core concept, after which you can build up again. So, no, Advaita Vedanta, classical Advaita Vedanta, is not a path of mystic experience either. What is it a path of? It's a path of knowledge. What do I mean by that? You see, mystic experiences, the problem with that is most of us don't have it. Even if they were valid and justified, and they are very valuable, but most of us don't have it. And it takes a long time and arduous practice to make a beginning on the path of mysticism in every religion of the world. What Advaita Vedanta says, not mystical experience, not faith, but take up experiences which are common to all of us. We all have these experiences. What experiences? Waking, dreaming, deep sleep. I mean, I hope you're all in the waking state right now, because Advaita Vedanta has a tendency of putting people to sleep. But these are experiences we all have every day. And that's all that is needed for Advaita Vedanta. Then you go to these texts and they will guide you through a process of reasoning based upon experiences which we all have: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, the seer and the seen, the different layers of the human personality. We are all aware of our bodies, our breath, our mind, our intellect. We are all aware of it. That's all you need on this path. And the promises, the claim is, on the basis of these common experiences of humanity, we will start a process of inquiry which will lead you to the core of Advaita Vedanta, the knowledge which Advaita Vedanta embodies, that we are one with the Absolute, that our reality is, and that we are one with God, to put it in a very broad sense, Aham Brahmasmi, I am the Absolute, and that can actually be experienced, or more clearly, it can be realized. It's an existing reality, not accomplished. They say praptasya prapti, that which you already have attained, you attain it again. So this is Advaita Vedanta. At its heart, not a path of believing something, not a path of seeking extraordinary mystical experiences, but a path of a spiritual philosophical inquiry. And very quickly, I'm not saying Advaita says you can argue your way to God, not that kind, but reason is it takes you to the very verge after which there is an intuitive jump that has to occur. The journey in Advaita Vedanta is not a journey in space. You're not going from here to there. Sometimes I see when you're driving around the United States, you find these huge posters. Heaven is a place. Call 1800, something like that, So now what does that mean? It's very interesting. It's a place. That means it's not this place, it's that place, and you have to go there. Advaita Vedanta is not a journey in place. The Brahman, which we are speaking about, the absolute reality, it's there everywhere, it's there here and there too. It's not a journey in time. Again, some of the billboards will say, after death, very ominous, big letters, after death, you will see God. Call 1800, something, it will be written there. Now, but what's interesting is after. After is a time word. Not now, then. So you have to wait through time. It's a journey through time. Advaita Vedanta is not a journey through time. It's not about something that's going to happen later. That reality which we are, which Advaita Vedanta is trying to point out about ourselves, is a reality now and then and every when, all the time. It's not a journey from us to something else. The reality which Advaita Vedanta speaks about is not an other, not something different from you. It's our own reality, not as we know ourselves. Because Advaita Vedanta claims that we are terribly, terribly mistaken about ourselves. Swami Vivekananda would often say, if only you knew yourselves as you really are. So that's what Advaita Vedanta wants to say. It's not a journey from us to something else, a journey from one object to another object, or subject to some other object. Rather, it's a realization of the reality about ourselves. Not a journey in space, not a journey in time, not a journey from one object to the other. I'm sort of translating Hindi pravachans, the talks given by the acharyas of Vedanta in Hindi, Desha, Kal, Vastu. I'm translating that into English. So what is it a journey? What kind of spiritual journey does Advaita speak about? It's a journey from ignorance to knowledge. What kind of ignorance? Ignorance about our real nature. We do not know what we really are. To a knowledge of our real nature. A knowledge, of course, is a living reality and a vibrant, experienced reality. This is called spiritual realization. So this is the uniqueness of Advaita Vedanta. It's a delicate point to make, but if you think about it, you begin to see there's something really remarkable about what Advaita is trying to tell us. Vedanta for the 21st century. I'm careful about the time. I haven't started yet. That's why I was looking at the clock. Let me make a beginning. What can we say, what can Advaita give us in the 21st century? I'm going to share with you 3 big ideas, none of which are mine. I'm just sharing them with you. 3 big ideas for the 21st century from Advaita Vedanta. First, Advaita Vedanta and the hard problem of consciousness. Right now, in the last 20 years or so, and right now we are in the midst of a boom in consciousness studies, in research into consciousness, maybe prompted by the recent developments in technology and neuroscience. And it's a multidisciplinary subject. There are computer scientists who are interested in it, linguists and philosophers and psychologists and doctors and neuroscientists and brain scientists. So many people are interested in consciousness studies. The question is, what is consciousness? And it's a mystery. There, almost every other day, you find new articles coming up. There either be the mystery of consciousness, one kind of article, or the other kind of article would be consciousness explained, breaking news. I always call those articles consciousness explained away. What is consciousness? Why should it be a mystery? It's put very well by David Chalmers, who is the head of the Mind-Brain Consciousness Unit at NYU. He coined the term the hard problem of consciousness. Why is it so difficult? There are these easy problems, easy within quotes. They're not easy, but comparatively. What is going on in our brain is correlated to our conscious experiences. So I feel a pinprick, maybe a pain. And the brain scientist looks at what neurons are firing in my brain and correlates. Oh, those firing of those neurons is causing this pain. So it's a science of correlations. This kind of neuronal activity is related to this conscious event. That's one kind of consciousness studies. There is another kind. The hard problem of consciousness. How is it that we, all of us, sentient beings, have this inner movie playing within our heads all the time? Sights and sounds and smells and touch and thought. The Kena Upanishad, which we chanted at the beginning, the first verse starts with, impelled by what do our minds think? What is it? Impelled by what shining do we see? Do our eyes see? Do our tongues speak? What is that one thing which gives us all these first-person experiences? See, the question of the hard problem of consciousness, which has been formulated or reformulated in our times by David Chalmers, thousands of years ago, this very question, the Upanishad begins with this question. Advaita begins with this question and ends with its answer. Why should it be so strange? Think about it. If you just look at some of David Chalmers' TED Talks, you will see what he means. Think about it. None of the physical things here, this table, even this highly sophisticated computer, none of them have a second internal first-person state. Only us. There is something what it is like to be outside. You can see the person, but inside something is going on. Inside, not physically inside. That's also something that a doctor can check. But inside, in our minds, thoughts, feelings, emotions, desires, questions. And it somehow feels like that. Even the most sophisticated machine, the most sophisticated computer does not have that. It has only one state, the physical state. You can thoroughly describe what is going on in terms of physics. Even our most esteemed colleagues across the street at Maxwell Dorkin, who come up with these fancy machines, none of them ever claims that the machines are conscious in any sense that we use. Even the most sophisticated ones. Imagine a Google self-driving car and you are driving your car. And you turn the car at this corner and the Google car also turns along with you. Doing exactly what you are doing. But there's something going on in your car which is not going on there. You, the feeling of driving and sound and decision-making, the tension in your body, the feel of it which you have, there is nothing corresponding to that in that Google car. How is it that we are conscious? There doesn't seem to be any space for that in a deterministic universe. So we are studying this. I'm taking this course on philosophy of mind at Emerson, and I'll let you into a secret. Those folks over there, very smart folks, they think most of us are zombies. In the sense, they really do. After Descartes, who posited that there are two kinds of things, the mental and the physical. You know the famous cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I exist. I'm a thinking being, and I'm related somehow to a material universe through a material body. The entire history of the philosophy of mind, which we are studying, Gilbert Ryle or Smart or Carnap, is a pushback against the possibility of mind, against the possibility of consciousness. Oh, there's no such thing as consciousness. What do you mean? When you're pricked with a pin and you shout, ouch, and you say, I'm feeling pain, that making a face and shouting, ouch, that's pain. I say, no, that's just the behavior. Inside I'm feeling something. Oh, there's nothing like that. It's just that behavior. You might think they're crazy or something, or are they zombies? But that they mean it seriously. There's a whole school which seeks to explain away consciousness as behavior. Logical behaviorism, Gilbert Ryle, very smart people. I asked David Chalmers once, these very smart people who deny consciousness, Don't they get it? Don't they get the question? So he was nice. He said that, Swami, they get the question, but they are reframing it in some other way. That's not the word he used, but they understand it in a different way. Galen Strawson, who is a brilliant philosopher, I hope to meet him someday, is at the University of Texas in Austin. He has written some very caustic articles about this. One is the silliest hypothesis. What is the silliest hypothesis? He says this the turn in philosophy of mind, trying to deny the existence of consciousness. That is the silliest hypothesis. So it's much more logical to think of ourselves as conscious beings having the experience of a material universe, and then you relate it. And David Chalmers, in fact, has come up with this idea of panpsychism, that consciousness is an all-pervasive, ubiquitous reality. Advaita Vedanta can contribute something there. I mean, almost all the time in the philosophy of mind class, I have this temptation of saying, no, I can solve this problem, but I restrain myself. But there are so many insights, not just in Advaita Vedanta, in Sankhya, Yoga, many schools of Buddhism, which can actually contribute. We can discuss some of them in the Q&A session. There was a conference, and people are beginning to recognize this. There was a conference in NYU. David Chalmers himself organized it. Advaita Vedanta and the Hard Problem of Consciousness. And there were 3 or 4 of the top people in the philosophy of mind whose articles we are reading now. They're present in the room. What happened later on, you can ask me, I'll tell you. Not much happened. So that's one thing. Advaita Vedanta and the Hard Problem of Consciousness, there's something to be done there. Okay, 2 minutes for two more big ideas. The second big idea I want to share is Advaita Vedanta and I'll call it the grand unified theory of religion. Just the outlines of it. The essence of Advaita Vedanta is Tat Tvamasi, that thou art. Now think about it. Religions of the world can be cleanly divided into these 2 categories. There are the that-centered religions. That-centered means God-centered religions. And Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Vaishnavism, Shaktaism, Shaivism, these are basically God-centered religions. That there is a God. There is the self-oriented or self-inquiry based religions. Buddhism comes to mind. Yoga comes to mind. Sankhya comes to mind. Jainism comes to mind. So there are these 2 different kinds of religions and these 2 different approaches to spiritual life. In this room itself, if you ask, why am I interested in religion, those who are spiritual seekers, you'll get 2 kinds of answers. One is, I'm looking for God, I believe in God, I love God, I'm searching for God. That's centered. The other one is, well, God is fine, but I'm more interested in who am I? An inquiry into myself. A self-inquiry based approach. Tat and Tvam, that and thou. Very quickly, that-centered religions have the deep problem with that is that's based entirely on belief. God is fine, but the question is, does God exist? That's the whole question. That's the whole problem with the that-centered approach. That's why you will find in those religions enormous efforts to prove the existence of God. That problem is not there with the self-inquiry-based religions. Nobody doubts, including Descartes, that whether I exist or not. There's a certainty about that. But the problem with the self-inquiry-based approach is our existence is certain. But that's the problem. Our existence, certain existence, is surrounded by suffering and sorrow. What Advaita Vedanta does is it relates the 2. Our certain existence is shown to be infinite by the process of Advaita inquiry. The third point, I will not make it because there are 2 speakers who are going to actually speak about it. Shweta Chaitanya ji will speak about that point, ethics and Advaita Vedanta, and I highly recommend Professor Rambachan's book, Hindu Theology of Liberation, which is about how Advaita Vedanta can be applied to today's problems. Thank you. Thank you very much.